shoulder pain, groin pain, actually rashes all over the front of my body, tinnitus, like ringing in my ears. So the whole shebang. I used to say my back's gone, my back seized. It went into such a horrendous spasm that it sounds so dramatic now to say it. I know I couldn't possibly have broken my back. That is genuinely how I felt. I couldn't stand upright. I could just get in bed. I won't bore you all with the terrible details because anyone living with pain knows what it's like. But it is so frightening. I was absolutely terrified. Pain literally never left me. It was there all day long, and by the time we got to the end of any day, it was raging away, and it was just so debilitating. I stopped doing any of the things that I loved to do. I was, just exercising. I couldn't exercise. I was just so fearful of movement. You name it. I had a lot of prodding over the years, a lot of poking, tests. But ultimately, as we will get to in the story, I learned that these diagnoses, these things, do not necessarily create the pain that we are experiencing. This was your life. So one of the last doctors I saw, because I was so distressed, I was told not to lift my child, 2-year-old. I was told not to bend over and play with my children. I was told so many joyless, depressing things. So naturally you are in a state of anxiety and you're just completely and utterly fed up and just, feeling a bit hopeless. Now I know what I know about neuroplastic pain. Yes. And for anyone who's new to this, if your symptoms come, and they can be very intense and they can go and then they won't be, to listen to other people's recovery stories, which is why, Dunya, I'm doing this today, because if I hadn't heard the words from another Lindsay, someone very similar to me, and it captivated me instantly, I just knew in my bones. When I tell the story, I feel it so deeply. It makes me feel really emotional.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Healing Story podcast. I'm Dr. Dunya Carina Berg, and in this podcast I speak with people who have walked through healing journeys, transformation, pain recovery, nervous system healing, and the deeper process of coming back to life again. Today I'm speaking with Lindsay Masvaleix.
That is correct, Dunya, that is perfect.
Thank you. The founding director of Vibrant Coaching. Lindsay is a pain recovery coach, certified Sherpa practitioner, life coach, and yoga nidra practitioner as well. After living with chronic pain for around a decade, including back pain, neck, shoulder, and groin pain, Lindsay discovered the mind-body approach and experienced a life-changing recovery. Congratulations, Lindsay.
Thank you.
So her own healing journey helped her understand the deep connection between stress, emotions, the nervous system, and of course chronic pain. And today, through Vibrant Coaching, she supports people to overcome neuroplastic pain, rebuild trust in their bodies, and reconnect with a more vibrant and fulfilling life. Lindsay, I'm so happy to welcoming you, and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. And it is such a pleasure and a joy to be with you, to share something that I know we both have a deep connection with. So I'm very grateful to speak with you today.
Thank you. The first question would be, can you take us back to the time when chronic pain was still part of your daily life? What did this period look like for you?
Yeah, it was difficult. As anyone out there who is experiencing any form of chronic condition, whether that be pain, fatigue, or anxiety, in my case, yes, I had chronic, mainly lower back pain, although towards the last year of this body speaking very loudly to me, as we now know, I started to get, as you rightly mentioned earlier, shoulder pain, groin pain, actually rashes all over the front of my body, tinnitus, like like ringing in my ears. So the whole shebang, but my back pain was always the one. It was the one that stopped me, literally physically stopped me. So who was that Lindsay then? What was she going through? I had a very full-on, full-time career. I had been promoted. I worked for a very small business, and I was the managing director of this business. It was in the corporate world, in a high-pressured sales environment. I had two young children, younger than they are now. And my worst episode happened when my son was about 2 years old. So he was a toddler. I bent down to put a pair of tights on, and my back, well, I used to say my back's gone, my back seized. It went into such a horrendous spasm that it sounds so dramatic now to say it. I know I couldn't possibly have broken my back. That is genuinely how I felt. I couldn't stand upright. I could just get in bed. I won't bore you all with the terrible details because anyone living with pain knows what it's like. But it is so frightening. I was absolutely terrified.
Can I ask you, Lindsay, sorry, take us back. Was there an injury, or what was the moment when the back pain started, for example?
Yeah. So it started previously to that 8 years beforehand. And it had happened actually when I was putting my other child into a crib. And that was the first time that my back had done a very, very similar thing. I didn't understand it at all. I was on my own when that happened, and I fell flat on the floor and couldn't get up. So I would recover. So I would do the things that you must always do. So I always say, of course, you must be checked to make sure there's nothing structural. And by that, I mean, we rule out fractures, we rule out anything that's broken, we rule out inflammation or causes of, and, cancers and tumors and autoimmune. Once all of that's been ruled out, I was told at the time it's musculoskeletal. So nothing at that point when this first happened was broken, although it felt incredibly bad at the time, and my back would recover. So I would go and see the doctor, I would be given pain relief, I would go and see a physio, and actually at the beginning of my back pain story, it would come and it would go, and I would have like months in between and nothing would happen. But when this episode, the one with my son when he was 2 happened, the back pain literally never left me. It was there all day long, and by the time we got to the end of any day, it was raging away. And it was just so debilitating. I stopped doing any of the things that I loved to do. I was, just exercising. I couldn't exercise. I was just so fearful of movement. I was kind of held rigid. I was happy if I was standing dead straight or if I was laying down. But any bending and any fast movements, anything at all, were just almost impossible for me to believe that I could do these things. I was just so fearful of movement. And I truly believed I was broken. I did have MRI scans. So just so that people know what I was told at that time, what I had.
Yes, what was that?
Yeah, so they told me that I had bulging discs, degenerative disc disease. I was told by some physios that I had sacroiliac joint dysfunction. I've been told all of my life that I had mild scoliosis, and at one point I was told I might have some facet joint issues, kind of suggesting that they might be early signs of arthritis. You name it. I had a lot of prodding over the years, a lot of poking, tests. But ultimately, as we will get to in the story, I learned that these diagnoses, these things, do not necessarily create the pain that we are experiencing. But those diagnoses at the time knocked me for 6 because I was told to go away and accept it. This was your life. So one of the last doctors I saw, because I was so distressed, I was told not to lift my child, 2-year-old. I was told not to bend over and play with my children. I was told so many joyless, depressing things. So naturally you are in a state of anxiety and you're just completely and utterly fed up and just, feeling a bit hopeless. the doctor sort of turned around to me. I was in my 30s at the time, and she said, "You're not getting any younger, Lindsay. The body is, it is what it is. You've got to live with this. You've got to accept. You have to accept this pain."
No.
And something inside of me, the little rebellious part of me, deep down, I just thought, I'm not sure I can do that, actually. So I'm really pleased that was a part of me, because I could have gone away and really accepted that this actually was it. And I was in my late 30s at the time. So you can imagine how damaging that might have been.
Yeah, you are a fighter. I can feel it. You are a rebel.
I think I might be secretly a rebel, and I think I have like that inner. Yeah, I'm not outwardly a fighter, but something in me just felt.
I'm not giving myself up.
No, I'm not. I'm not doing that. I'm not. Yeah, exactly.
But what gave you that strength? I mean, yes, that thought was first there, right? I'm not giving up. I'm not taking that label. I'm not accepting that all these diagnoses anymore. What was the point when you said, I have to look somewhere else? I have to find other informations. I have to look for different kind of medical treatments. When was that? And after how many years of struggling? Did you realize you have to do something for yourself,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was about 10 years in. So it was 10 years. I had 10 years of back pain, not always chronic. It had been chronic for about 4 years, but 10 years in being in my life. Can
I ask you, sorry, did you took painkillers all the time, or how did it look like?
No, interestingly enough, I took painkillers on and off. So sometimes now I know what I know about neuroplastic pain. And for anyone who's new to this, if your symptoms come, and they can be very intense, and they can go and then they won't be. So there were times where I didn't need to, and there were times when I did. And when I did, we are talking the heavy guys, we're talking very strong, medication. At one point, I was also put on antidepressants because they thought that it would be good in some way for kind of calming down the system.
I mean, it's relaxing. I had similar issues, I can share a little bit because it resonates so much with me when I had my 3 girls delivered. 1 year after another, I had so much lower back pain, and they gave me like the TENS machine and injections, and then they gave me at some point antidepressant, and I didn't know it. They just said, take this medication for pain, and when I took it, I felt like out of space, and then I read the what is it? The description inside the medicine. It was an antidepressant. So yes, of course, what relax you emotionally, relax you probably in your body as well. But we don't want to be dependent on those things.
No, and actually they didn't. And they didn't really work with the pain. Because again, to be perfectly honest with you, I kind of decided myself that maybe wasn't the route that I wanted to go down. But yes, I did take medication on and off. So what was it? Well, I think I had a guardian angel somewhere there in my life. The last osteopath that I went to see in my journey of trying to fix this back was an amazing woman called Rebecca. And instantly she was very, very, very different. She was the first person who mentioned my nervous system. And in our initial conversation, she also asked me what my life was like, what's going on in your life. And of course, me being me, little Miss Chirpy, smile on my face, pleasing the universe. I was just like, and I told her about my life. It was very, very busy. I had a huge amount of responsibility at work. I'd just been given a big promotion. I was kind of running the company, running the kids, running the household. And she was nodding along and, okay. And I'm thinking, why is she asking me this? It's my back. Why get onto my back? You silly woman.
What has this to do with my
pain? Exactly. But thank God that she persevered with me. And she lent me a a book, which is by Lorimer Moseley. I'm not sure, for anyone out there who doesn't know him, he's a pain specialist, a pain scientist, and he's written an amazing
From Australia,
book.
right?
Yeah, from Australia. And I now know it's a brilliant book called Explain Pain. But this book is absolutely
What is it called? Blame Pain.
It's called Explain Pain.
Explain.
Yeah, so
Explain
it's
pain
yeah,
makes sense, yeah.
but it's basically a beautifully illustrated book. It's very unusual, and I always have a joke about this book because Rebecca said, "I'm going to lend you a book. I want to teach you about pain science and how pain can become chronic and what's going on inside of the body." And I was like, okay. So she went off to her little office, came back with a book. It was Explain Pain is a very big, very thick, beautifully designed book. And my initial reaction was like, oh my God, I can't carry that. I've got bad back. This is ridiculous. Rebecca,
you cannot carry it home because it was
exactly. But I did. And thanks to Rebecca, she also pointed me in the direction of SERPA, who are the Stress Illness Recovery Practitioners Association. I know you know who they are,
yes.
Dunya, and now obviously I'm well aware of who they are. And she sent me a link to their website and said,
"Can I ask you this, Rebecca? Was she a SERPA practitioner?
She had done their level 1 training, so
okay.
she had an insight into the impact of stressors and the impact on the nervous system, and obviously the role of brain-generated pain. So she was gently massaging me in the right direction because I think she knew I was a perfect candidate to have a
neuroplastic pain, which
exactly.
we will explain. Maybe you explain it now a little bit for the viewers. What is that neuroplastic pain?
Yeah, let's go. I mean, I always try to keep it as simple as possible because jargon and things don't sit very well for any of us, and particularly when we're in so much discomfort and so much distress. But essentially, all pain that we experience, every single bit of it, is generated by our brains. And it's based on the brain's prediction of how much potential threat we might be under. So it is basically analysing and assessing constantly what it thinks might be dangerous, what it thinks might be a threat. And based on that perceived threat, it decides how much volume of pain we're going to be receiving, which is
Thank you so much, by the way, for this explanation. I love it.
Yeah, and that's the best way I can describe it. Now, some people genuinely have had an injury. I don't believe that I ever actually did, genuinely, because I had no high impact. I had no accident. I was bending over to put on a pair of tights, it was usually for me the bending motion, which I now know I was fearful of because I had pain bending, and now my brain recognizes the association with this movement with a threat. And when it's feeling under threat, it's protecting you. So therefore, pain, don't bend. You see where I'm going with this. It's a very well-oiled machine, but the brain gets things wrong. And it's a bit of a drama queen in terms of being very sensitive to these threats, but I want you to know, and what I have since learned also, is that it's your best buddy, and it's in cahoots with your nervous system. They are close relatives, and they're just trying their best to protect you. So yes, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for the introduction to neuroplastic pain, and thank you, SERPA, genuinely, for opening my eyes as to what this incredible piece of science has taught me, and what it's brought to my life. And the first thing I did when I went on the SERPA website, I just happened to click onto it through accident, was to listen to other people's recovery stories, which is why, Dunya, I'm doing this today, because if I hadn't have heard the words from another Lindsay, someone very similar to me, and it captivated me instantly. I just knew in my bones. When I tell the story, I feel it so deeply. It makes me feel really emotional, because I just knew instantly when I listened to not one recovery story, that I had to listen to another and another, and not always for lower back pain, actually, for other things. It just blew my mind, but I recognized myself in those people. And more importantly, which is why I am here, the main reason is to give true evidenced hope to people that this truly can transform even just a little normal person like me. You know, if it can work on me, I'm sure there's another Lindsay out there who will benefit.
So when did you recognize, I mean, she uh, passed you the way to SURPA. And when did you really understand the connection between stress, emotions, and the nervous system and pain? What was it in your life that you said, okay, I understand it now. What do I do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing is really important. It sounds very boring and clinical, but I promise you it's not. It's fascinating. I genuinely believe that the pain science, so just understanding the very basics behind, you know, what the nervous system can and can't do, what its, you know, role is, and how it can actually create this, you know, in many cases, very devastating physical symptoms. Just understanding that and understanding that, oh my God, I may have bulging discs and disc degeneration and all of these other things, but actually that doesn't mean that is why I am getting this pain. It doesn't mean I'm damaged. And I felt like a weight had lifted from my shoulders, like what seemed like a life sentence of doing the things that you've described, like turning up, maybe having injections or possibly talking about surgery further down the line, and all of those awfully depressing and very frightening things. I just felt like this huge sense of relief that this is me. I think this really could be me. So I started to believe that I was not permanently damaged in any way. So that was the first thing. It was like this huge sense of relief, and I actually genuinely felt hopeful for the first time ever on this journey. And that, do not underestimate how healing that is to a nervous system.
I 100%, Lindsay. And I had exactly the same, you know, recently with my sciatica nerve, with my problem with my leg. I couldn't walk. I had never, ever had such pain after delivery pain, maybe, but this was so awful because you didn't know what it was. And when I read these studies that were done on healthy people, who had all kinds of structural damages, right? Bulging discs or whatever, and they were not in pain. And I think that's the study you're referring to, right?
Absolutely.
So mind-blowing when you know that most of us have these structural damages in our spine and our backs. But it doesn't mean that we have to be in pain and that we have to be in agony. And when I learned that, and of course read about, I had a different book. I read Healing Back Pain by Dr. Sano while I was in that pain, because nothing helped, Lindsay. Not even painkillers, the strongest painkillers, nothing helped. I was screaming. But I knew already about Dr. Sano, which was my my advantage, because I learned about him through 2018. And I remembered him. I thought, okay, there must be something stressful, emotional going on in my life. And I really reached out to my colleagues because I couldn't make sense of it anymore. I spoke to 2 SURPA practitioners, and they said, oh, Carina, can you not see? Dunya, can you not see what's going on in your life? You just had a grief in you know, a death in the family. You had so much going on, you know, sudden death of the father of my children, and I had a lung infection after that, a really bad pneumonia, which I cured myself without any antibiotics, and then something else came on top of it. I trapped my nerve in a buttock, my left buttock, and that I'm still not 100%, but I am happy than ever in my life, because now I understand how the brain works, right? Thank you so much. Let's go to the next question. What did you do next? So what were the tools you used? You understood, of course, the mind shift is very important.
Very
important. You have to really believe that you have neuroplastic pain, otherwise the whole work will not work, right? Is it true?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said,
Guide me.
knowing that the things that I'd seen on this MRI, that practically every single person in my street from the age of 20 would have form of degeneration or would have disc bulging and they have no pain, or herniated discs. So even people with
Yes.
slip discs, they have no pain. So this reassured me. So the next step was then looking at the stressors. And yes, I'm going to use the words emotions. I didn't realize it at the time, but when I had my big double whammy episode, when I had my son and I was, in bed for a few weeks, couldn't move, was just crying for 2 weeks. My body needed to stop. I had to stop. I think I was in overwhelm. I think I didn't know it at the time, because the sort of person that I am is show up, do it, put everybody first. All those, we talk about personality traits in the mind body world a lot, I know. And a lot of people could say, yeah, that's really me. I've got that and I don't have pain. Because I work in this field now, I see it time and time again. So I learnt to feel and identify the emotions that I think as many people do, judge as not very nice. So anger, me and anger. Wow, okay. So I am an angry person. Isn't that interesting? I do have anger. Anger is in me, and it's valid, and it deserves to be heard, and it deserves to be held and explored. So I did do quite a lot of looking at, life events or stresses, which I explored because I wanted to understand, okay, why has Lindsay's nervous system developed this pattern of overprotection? And that's the way I see it. It's become sensitized because it's protecting me from emotional pain in a way that I had never been shown to really express or identify or even know it was there. So what is it? What are the things in my life that led to this? Prior to having my children, I did have a miscarriage. I think that was part of the lead up to it. I've explored things in my childhood. I'm definitely a person that would say, oh no, my childhood was it was fine. It was wonderful. My parents were wonderful, and they were. But yes, there were issues there. Like my parents had divorced and I'd been through that separation of the family, very unsettling. And in my adult life, as I said, I had the miscarriage, but also I was just taking on more and more and more responsibility, and I just was never really in the moment, and I just never really had an opportunity to breathe. I was just looking after everything and everybody, and little old me certainly was nowhere near the top of the pile. I was down there somewhere. And so I really learned to understand myself with much more compassion and kindness, to know that it's okay to stop and it's not lazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, to
Makes
know.
me really emotional now.
Yeah.
Did you have a coach that time who supported you on that journey?
Yes, and in fact, that's kind of where my inspiration came, because I was in this corporate world and I was coming out the other side of it, surviving. And I did work with a coach myself, which was really beneficial, because quite often, obvious thing to say is that when you're in it yourself, you can't see it sometimes. And I think it was just wonderful to have somebody to guide me through the process, to reassure me that what I was experiencing was absolutely normal, that I'm just this wonderful, normal human being, and that vulnerability and asking for help is such a strength, actually. So yes, I'm forever thankful for that. And when I came out the other side of that process, I just knew that now for me, this is a big transformation, and I am not for one moment saying to anybody else listening that you need to massively change your life. But for me, I knew I had to get out of the job that I was doing. I knew that I had to get out of that, because I knew that a huge amount of not just external pressures, and this is another thing, the internal pressure that I was putting upon myself in that role to deliver for my boss, deliver for my clients. I was delivering and making sure all the staff were all trained and happy and all of those things. And then, as I said, you know what it's like. You're a mum delivering for the kids. So I just knew that something had to give, something had to change. That was the biggest lesson. That was my biggest reflection. why is my body doing this? Why is it making me stop? It's making me stop because, quite frankly, if it didn't, I probably would have truly have gone through quite a big burnout. You know, I really think I would have crashed and burned because I just had nothing more to give. And I needed something for myself. And the biggest gift I could possibly give myself was to stop. It sounds like such a nothing, but it's such a huge thing. Give myself time, give myself love, give myself compassion, understand myself. And my body started to respond to these things, to these changes. And, you know, vibrant coaching is because I was so busy looking after everybody and everything that I had a pair of glasses on that was so blinkered that I just was getting through each day, you know, the best that I could. I was just doing the best that I could. But now I've like taken off those glasses and like the world is full of small, tiny, amazing joys that I had no time to see. And I didn't realize how fulfilling that could be. So vibrant coaching is, I came to that name because I just genuinely thought that's how I feel. I've come through this process. My back pain has gone, but oh my God, this is so much more than just that.
Yes.
So much, it's so fulfilling and it's so joyful. And on that note, I want everyone to know I'm a really normal human being. So I'm going to swear, I get pissed off like anybody else. But the joy is that I allow it and it's okay. Yeah. I'm allowed to. I'm absolutely allowed to go there.
Be compassionate with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you think when you look back now that actually that moment of agony, of being in severe pain, but that experience in your life was really a shift in your life for a better life, right? Yes.
100%.
Despite having really these 10 years of chronic pain, staying with all kinds of diagnosis, medication, and not knowing what to do, being hopeless. And once you got to the other side, how does your life look like now?
Yeah. I mean, I have got to the stage, and I know anyone who's sitting there right now, scared out of their brains, literally, because they're so fearful of living in their body at the moment. I know it seems so unrealistic and hard to believe that a woman would sit here and say, if it hadn't have been for my back pain, I would not have what I have in my life now. I wouldn't have learned so many amazing tools. I now respond to stressful situations in such a different way. My mindset has shifted. I still have stuff that goes on inside of my body. I don't want anyone to think that I'm a superwoman here. I still experience, if you're going to use the word pain, I still do sometimes get back pain. But the difference is I am no longer frightened of that pain. It is the biggest and most loving messenger for me to say, hey, Lindsay, are you okay? Do you need to slow down? Have you addressed your own needs? What's going on? And when I get it, I can do all of those things. Whereas before, I would have spiraled into absolute terror really quickly. And I also want to say when something comes up in my body, it doesn't hang around. Not really. It will dissipate quite quickly.
I also want to, maybe could you mention the tools, the practical tools that you use to overcome that pain? That might be even interesting for the people who are looking for some ways and systems, strategies, whatever it is. What did you practically use?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the nervous system, very, very simple things. So the nervous system in my case was definitely in fight or flight most of the time. I was operating at a really speedy level, and I needed to teach it that there was safety in being still, and also to help the mind calm down, the mind-body connection. So I did find Yoga Nidra, for example, which is a deep form of relaxation, because I found it a really useful intro into relaxation, meditation, and just giving myself the opportunity to be to stop. So this is one small thing. So breathing, very simple breathing exercises when I was starting to feel anxious or overwhelmed. So just anyone listening right now, if you want to check in literally as to where you might be breathing right now, sounds like a ridiculous request, like through my nose, I'm breathing. Yeah. But when was the last time for 60 seconds you actually breathed in through the nose? You can do it right now. Shut your eyes. Be aware of the breath. Is the breath going into the tummy? Are you able to slow that breathing down, even by a fragment, a tiny amount? Really focus on the quality of the air. What does the air feel like, particularly on a hot day like today? Is the air cooler? Just be mindful, be present, but more importantly, slow the breathing down, connect, get the breath into the tummy. Feel that beautiful connection with the chair, the sense of being held in this moment, just being held, doing nothing. We're not fixing, we're not solving. We're just breathing. And as we breathe in real time, I'm going to open my eyes, we are sending a message of feeling safer to the nervous system in this very moment. So slowing down, breath work, relaxation, other practical things. I use a lot of what we call somatic tracking with my I call them sensations in the body, like wonderful Alan Gordon. I'm trained in pain reprocessing therapy as well. And we tend to refer to what we're experiencing in the body as a sensation, because the language we use about what we're experiencing can also add to the threat levels that the brain is detecting. So I'm not doing it to sound, posh or swanky. I'm doing it deliberately. So whatever I'm feeling in my back, let's say, if I'm having a bit of a backy day, somatic tracking is really, again, a mindful technique to be with the sensation in real time. And we work with clients and we build our capacity to be able to do this depending on the levels of of the pain you're experiencing. If it's a 10 out of 10, we would not dream of doing somatic tracking. If it's
what would you then do? What did you do when you can't do somatic tracking?
Yeah, well, in that case, I think it's really a case of grounding, grounding exercises and reassuring, and what I would call, like, if we can, positive distraction almost. So a good technique for positive distraction, for example, is when we are very, very fearful of what's going on inside of our body. So say my back was a 10 out of 10. Is there a place in your body? Is there a place right now, let's say, that is a 0 out of 10? And even if that's just your right thumb, and do what I've just done. So shut your eyes, breathe calmly, try and get the breath going into the belly, but not over breathing. And then just be really curious about what the right thumb feels like. Can you channel into your right thumb? Can you put your attention onto the right thumb, or maybe the right hand? And when I do that,
so we distract the brain from concentrating on the pain. We want the brain to focus on something that's not painful. For the viewers who don't know what we're talking about.
And it's a neutral sensation in the body. Okay. Now, for some people, just connecting with the breathing, as I've just done, and focusing on the in-breath and the exhale, just for a few minutes. You can't be doing this all day, but what we want to do is bring in pockets of kind of, when we're activated, we want pockets of just sort of bringing and easing that nervous system to a place. And
the more often we do it, the more the brain gets the messages of safety, probably.
Exactly. But when it's not a 10 out of 10 and you are able to tolerate it, we then do the somatic tracking, the somatic work with the sensations in the body, knowing that despite what we are experiencing feels frightening, feels dangerous, in real truth, in real essence, there is no harm here. This is a false alarm. This is a sensation created by the brain. Is actually misinterpreting safety signals from my back, but misinterpreting them as dangerous. So it's like, my brain is Spanish and my back is French, and they're just not getting the right message between the two of them. And we just need to encourage them to understand each other. So by dipping a toe in the water, being able to sit with the sensation you're experiencing without immediately trying to reject it, immediately trying to fix it, to fight it, to solve it, again, in real time. And even if for the first day of trying this, you can do 30 seconds, I promise you, if you can breathe, maybe you want to listen to some nice music or your favorite song. It could be uplifting. It doesn't have to be an astral meditation. It could be Bon Jovi. It could be anything.
So the point is to bring yourself and your brain, your body, and your nervous system back into at least neutrality, if not into positive feelings, emotions, away from pain. Even the sensations that we call pain is still there.
Yes.
But we want to give the brain the messages of safety.
Yeah.
I want to, the Yoga Nidra again, because is that just the breathing? Why is it called yoga?
Well, it's yogic sleep. It is a form of yoga. And it's actually a form of sort of meditation, but wakeful sleep. So what we do in Yoga Nidra sessions is you are deeply relaxed physically. So you are laying down if you can.
Lying down, okay.
If not, you can do it sitting in a chair. It's absolutely fine. It's a guided meditation, so which is why it's such a lovely introduction to relaxation. Because if you're dealing with somebody who's never experienced relaxation at all, actually that doesn't feel safe for them. This is lovely because it's a guided opportunity to and also you're creating a new positive relationship with the body, because with Yoga Nidra we do what's called a rotation of consciousness, which is literally just a little whistle stop tour of going around the body, mentioning different places. It's a little bit somatic because we're starting to become aware of sensation in the body, but hopefully which is positive, like signs of just life, pulsing, tingling, vibration, trying to remove judgment. What do I mean there? So if you've had an issue, let's say with plantar fasciitis, and we're on the feet, we're just going to lightly, just delicately place our attention on the feet, and then we're going to come off again. But we're going to go around the whole entire body, and it's kind of like, we call it like a massage for the nervous system, because it's deep relaxation, but we are working with your subconscious brain. We are working with the brain waves. And we set an intention with Yoga Nidra. So at the beginning of a session with Yoga Nidra, quite often when I'm working with clients and I do these sessions, I tend to start with sort of giving ourselves permission to rest deeply. In the present tense, give myself permission to rest deeply. And we say that internally so that the message can be received, in that deep subconscious. So, and to be perfectly honest with you, if you Google them, you can find them online. They're free, you could just start with 5 minutes. But it's one of the things which I found very useful.
Can I ask you, the Yoga Nidra has this, so you said you can find it online. So it is then a recording online where someone guides you, or they come to you and you guide them in person, online or in person, whatever.
Yes, exactly. I tend to, at the beginning, when I'm working with my pain recovery clients, which are the main sort of thrust of my work, naturally, that's where my passion is. At the beginning of every session, I like to, because we all have busy lives, and don't forget, this is the mind, I'm going to say it again, the mind-body connection. So before we come together, we're both, we've both got thoughts going on. So I tend to do a short 5 to 10 minute relaxation in real time, experientially with clients. And I do sometimes do Yoga Nidra at the beginning of the session, or we do somatic work together experientially, because when you go off on your own, if you have no place of reference, if you've not practiced it with me, and you can say, oh, hang on, what about this? What about that?
Yes.
There's no right.
They cannot ask question if they go online and do it by themselves. So they have to experiences with a coach together. And afterwards, then they could go home and they can apply that tool on themselves.
Exactly. And when I work with people, I have my own little recordings that I share with them
Okay.
if they want them, because it's
Okay.
really interesting with co-regulation with the nervous system, because
Mm-hmm.
when you work as you do therapeutically with anybody, and you build that trust and you have that alliance, the other person's nervous system starts to get to know you know, they get to know
Yes.
me, they get to know my voice, we co-regulate
Mm.
together. So sometimes I say, and I never force it on anyone, would you like my voice? Do you want me to send it? Because you might just find it's a nice introduction. You're familiar with my mannerism. You're familiar with the tone of my voice. And for some people, that's just an easier bridge to starting. And then they ditch me and they'll go and find someone else to listen to.
Well,
But
I
that's
think
fine.
it's also to do with trust, you know,
Yeah.
because when they trust you already, they love you, they came to you, they had some success, and when they go home, it's the same with my clients, you know,
Yeah.
when they hear my voice in the recording, they know me and they know
Yes.
they are allowed to relax and to
To
rest.
release. Yeah.
They cannot
Absolutely.
do that. And I give them the same options as you do. You know, look online, go on YouTube, find
Yeah.
someone you really. Some
100%.
people need a masculine voice, you know,
Yes.
a
Yes.
male.
Yeah.
So, and
Absolutely.
I leave it, but they most likely want to hear my voice.
Yeah.
And this is because that we already created that connection between them and us. And I studied quantum physics and quantum medicine before,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's where we learned the entanglement, you know, between
Yes.
patients and practitioner. That in itself has a lot of healing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100.
so we shouldn't push them away, really, you know, and find them someone else because we have healing powers, every one of us, yeah? And when we connect with each other through energy, through trust, through knowing, and
Totally.
having had beautiful experiences, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more.
You had something for the viewers, a quiz or something. Have you prepared something for the viewers?
What you mean, like a little goodie? So,
Yes, a little goodie.
so I decided. I was trying to think, and like I genuinely believe in this world. I do a lot of work in the community as well, spreading the word, doing free workshops, because I really think everybody should have access to this, and I feel everybody should know about it. So I decided. I've given you a little link. It's a little link that you can click onto and sign up for my newsletter, which is
Mhm.
not going to bombard anybody. I do every now and again. I give some lovely recovery stories. I give some tips. I've read this book. Would you like to listen to this, podcast? If anybody would be interested, they can pop on there and just sign up for the newsletter. And then on July the 17th, so everybody who does that, I'm going to do some wonderful at random. Maybe I'll write your names down and get my little boy to pick your name out of a hat. But
Why not?
I would love to give the gift of a free coaching session. I would actually
Good.
love to give somebody the opportunity to choose whether they would like life coaching, or whether they would like to do maybe some somatic work with me and experience some pain reprocessing coaching. It's entirely up to you. But if you sign up, your name could be the one, and you will have the opportunity to have that as a gift with true, genuine love. So
Thank
yeah,
you so much.
yeah.
Another question I would have maybe before we close in your work with clients, is there a story that really keeps you thinking about or that touches you the most?
Oh my goodness. I always say, first and foremost, it's the most unbelievable pleasure and privilege to work with any of my clients. I would like to say I think they are some of the most brave and courageous individuals that I could ever come across, full stop. There are so many different touching stories. I have a client, actually, I worked with her yesterday. We've been working together for a few months now. She's young. She's in her 20s, and she was diagnosed with FND. She had weakness in her legs and tremors in her legs, but also CFS, a chronic fatigue syndrome. I do a discovery call with everybody before I work with them, obviously for them, but also for me, because I have some must know information that I need to check. I'm always trying to rule in neuroplasticity, but rule out anything that I should ethically not work with.
Yes. Uh-huh.
When I met her, I just instinctively heard her story, And something in the way that we communicated and she reacted, I just thought, this girl's going to get this.
Wow.
She's going to do this. I just know it. And when we sat down together in the first session, I asked her what her goals were, realistic, and to say that this could take some time, and it can. You know, Dunya, this can take however long it takes, but, you know, it's not always a quick fix. And she said, I would like to go back to horse riding, and I would like to run for half an hour. Within literally a month of working together, she'd started running, which was mind-blowing. And yesterday, and I wanted to cry with happiness for her, she has booked her first riding lesson, getting back onto a horse, which was her, when we talk about returning to things that are authentic, for her, that's her happy place. You know, she wanted desperately to get back to being with horses, and she's doing that. And I wanted to cry because I was just so unbelievably happy, because I could see the joy that was going to give her.
So 1 month, how many sessions did she have?
She probably had about 3 or 4 sessions.
Somatic tracking and yoga nidra mix, or what exactly?
Not yoga nidra is just it's not my main thing that I do with my pain reprocessing clients. I give them some of it to work with on their own, but mainly my work as a SERPA practitioner, looking at the stress response, the pain science education, and somatic work. And because I'm a life coach and I weave in coaching, with her was a huge amount of work about self-belief and self-compassion, working with the inner critic, because it can be so incredibly damaging when that sort of takes, you know, the role that it does. So lots of different elements actually over time. But yeah, I mean, that's just one example. And to be honest with you, I think all of them are amazing. And for her, that's a big thing. For another person, quite frankly, it could be, I want to get out of my chair without fear. Yes. And if a client gets out of their chair without fear, that is just as worthy as a round of applause as getting on the horse. So it's so individual.
So do you give homework as well for that specific young girl? Because 3 sessions seems like nothing. How can she have a turn like that? She must have done something at home as well.
Yes, I do. I mean, without making it sound too heavy, there are tools and there are practices that I will send clients off with. Awareness pieces, tools, so things like embracing relaxation, embracing, you know, grounding and soothing techniques. I mean, as we work together, there's going to be homework, because I call it self-work, because that's what it is. It's really taking them through either learning to express themselves, so emotional awareness and expression work, whether it's, you know, purist PRT, like pain reprocessing therapy practices, somatic work. It's so individual based on the client and their needs. I just need, now, I want anyone who's out there who might have been on this journey for a while thinking, oh God, that sounds so unrealistic. And also they might put pressure on themselves. I've mentioned this example because it happened yesterday and it's top of my mind. I want to reassure you, I have had other clients where absolutely it takes, I'm going to be honest, it can be 5-6 months before they start to notice what I call really dramatic differences. And that is okay, because we are retraining behaviors and neural pathways, which in some cases have been doing things for decades, and that takes time, compassion, patience. So I want none of you to put yourself under pressure. I chose that story. It touched me yesterday. I could just have as well have chosen another story where it took somebody 6 months to do something that they really wanted to do.
Would you also, maybe you have some books for our viewers that you can recommend before they start any coaching or sign up for you? They might be really interested and have never ever heard about the mind-body approach. Which books would you recommend to them?
I always recommend, first and foremost, Alan Gordon, Alan Gordon, The Way Out. Alan is he's a psychotherapist, and he I love his approach because he is so human and he's very funny.
He's so funny. I love him. Even reading his book makes you laugh all the time.
Exactly. And he had lived experience, and oh my God, his body was doing so many weird and wacky things for a very, very long time. So he's lived experience, and he's done amazing things. So Alan Gordon, The Way Out, it explains the connection of the brain and the nervous system, the generation of neuroplastic pain very, very well, without being too heavy, too scientific, and practical. So that's I mean, for me, if no one's ever heard of this world, I will say, have a look at Alan's book first, because I genuinely feel it's just such a wonderful, easy to read, sort of dip your toe in the water. I also will suggest Dr. Howard Schubner's book, Unlearn Your Pain. He's just released the latest one. It is, when I say more heavy going, I don't mean that to put anybody off. It's fabulous because he has conducted so much research now in pain reprocessing therapy and his own emotional awareness and emotional expression therapies. So he's publishing his findings and the data, PRT versus conventional modalities to recover or to manage pain. Obviously, we're not managing pain. No. We're recovering. That's a really good book. And last but not least, I'll give you one more, is Georgie Oldfield, her book, which is Chronic Pain, The Key to Recovery. I trained with Georgie. She's wonderful. She's a powerhouse of a wonderful woman, so compassionate. And that book is also a fabulous intro to the work that we would introduce them to and support them with.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. One last question. You haven't mentioned even journaling. Did you ever journal?
Yeah, of course I did. And there are lots of different techniques, and some techniques just don't work for some people and some do for others. Journaling does work, I feel. I don't journal all the time. I have definitely used journaling in my journey. I use journaling now as and when I need to. And what I mean by that is, if you ever have, I don't like conflict particularly, or if I have really strong emotions coming up in response to something stressful that's happening in my life, I have a tendency to, as we know, to repress. So I will get a book, pen and paper, and I will free write. And the premise being unlocking my feelings and giving myself the voice that I didn't have in that moment. So yes, I do use journaling. Some people love it. I don't feel that you have to do it every day, and I don't think you have to do it for hours on end, but I think it can be very therapeutic and it can be very useful to allow you to express yourself freely. So go with your pen and paper for sure.
I have always pen and paper here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lindsay. This was such an interesting story, and congratulations to your recovery, and congratulations to your vibrant business and vibrant coaching and helping so many people on that way. And I hope many more listeners becoming more open to the mind-body approach and really open up. There are possibilities, there are opportunities. You can recover. You don't have to live that way any longer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just look out, read the books, and let us know in the comments what you think. Thank you so much.
100%. Thank you, Dunya, for having me. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Best wishes to everybody.
I wish you so much success for your clients and for your work, and maybe see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.